Alright everyone, now it's time for a very good video, which is the last book of the year has been completed. It was literally done on Christmas, and the processing was done in a single night, which by Amazon standards isn't actually that bad. Link in the description to my work on Amazon. Second and third links to my books blogs. I haven't made the blog post yet as of making this video. I will do that probably this evening. And this book is entitled Black Magic and Spirits. This is the compilation that people have been waiting for. The first compilation that I made a couple months ago was on demonology, but it was from the academic perspective. So it's different looks at what Satan is, what hell is, and so forth. It wasn't black magic, it was academics, from various perspectives. Catholic, Protestant, specifically atheistic, had a bit of a paganistic, very academic perspective. You look at the Piazza, the devil among the Indians, and so forth. This is grimoires. This is spell books, 7 of them. 6 complete books, and 1 that's partial. The first is the Ars Goetia, and the reason why I included it standalone, number 1 was for page length, but number 2, the Ars Goetia is the most coherent and straightforward. Like, if you look at the Pauline art, it's not really black magic at that point. And if you look at the Ars Nova or Notoria that are sometimes included in lesser keys compilations, it's not from the same era. The Thursia Goetia I thought maybe to include, but I finally said, well, a lot of it's redundant to the Ars Goetia, the first book anyway, of the Lemegeton. I'll just include the Ars Goetia. Now, this is about the 72 demons and how to summon them and what they stand for, and some of it is definitely symbolic in nature and not meant to be taken fully literally. But the entire work is there, summoning spells and rites and all, illustrated, by the way, by Rita Metzner, and she's a contributor listed on this work. Some of the illustrations are ones that I worked. Some of them are from out of copyright woodcuts, and then the rest are from Metzner. The second work's the Grand Grimar. Literally needs no real introduction. By the way, this is not the Grand Grimoire of Clymer, Swinburne Clymer, which comes from the early 20th century and is a Rosicrucian manual. It's literally a manual for a Rosicrucian lodge. Same title. This is the one that's also referred to as the Red Dragon. Date unknown, authorship unknown, kind of an enigmatic work, and a lot of it deals with summoning a specific demon called Lucifuge Rofocal, probably synonymous with Lucifer, with Satan, and doing various rites thereby, constraining spirits using supposedly holy forces. You got to understand, when you're talking about grimoires, typically, unless it's a postmodern grimoire, if you find a book and it looks old, but it's talking about making love to devils and stuff, it's probably modern. It's probably not actually of older origins. It's probably not prior to the 20th century, because a lot of that's marketing. Most of the grimoires, they would go to great lengths to say, no, this isn't black magic. You're summoning demons, but you're doing it by the power of Jesus and through the Archangel Michael and constraints and invocations to keep him from harming people and to use them for various useful purposes. And a lot of it takes off the Testament of Solomon. The Testament of Solomon is an old apocryphal work. It explains how King Solomon used a magic ring and various spells, by the guidance of Jehovah, in order to build the temple. And that's basically where the Solomonic cycle materials begin. The third is the Clavicles of Solomon, Clavicula Salomonis Rex. Interesting work, again. This one I think I had re-illustrated, and again, it's fairly straightforward. It's similar content, and most of it's summoning. This one uses a ritual knife and ritual wand and altar and all of these things, and it's very much ceremonial magic. It's not like the sort of stuff, again, you get from the 20th century and thereon. The fourth is the Black Pullet. This one's a little bit different. I included it, it's not black magic, it's mainly talismanic magic. And half of it is actually a story that explains those talismans. They're fully illustrated, by the way. You could literally make them if you really wanted to. The backstory is, and this is probably post-Napoleonic, although it pretends to be older, and that's because if you look at the context of what's being said, it appears to be potentially someone who was literally marching across Egypt under Napoleon. It's a French manufacture. That'd make it a century newer than it claims to be. Basically, the idea is that this soldier's wounded, and the Arabs are coming for him, and a Turkish mage finds him, brings him into the pyramids, actually, and teaches him various magic, through which, by the way, there is one very, very interesting inclusion here, where it talks about making the hen that will lay golden eggs. Yes, that infamous story that you probably know as being a fairy tale, the hen that laid the golden eggs and so forth, actually is from these grimoires. Initially, appears to be a very old tradition, actually, sort of similar to how they would make basilisks or something. How was it? They would incubate an egg underneath a toad, if I remember correctly, and then create an evil being with various magical properties. Then fifth, we have the Grammar of Popenorius. This one I included because it's about spirits, it's about summoning, but it's white magic. This is more on the angelic, fluffy side, as opposed to the sixth work, which is the Grimorium Verum, which is about the most bizarre thing you'll ever read. Read through the Grimorium Verum and try to keep from, like, going, whoa. There's one specific ritual that talks about summoning a demon by taking a dead dude's head and putting beans in the eyes and nostrils and stuff, and I think burying it at a crossroads and then watering it. And then demons will come and ask you what you're doing. You say, I'm watering my head. And I've explained, I think the purpose to some of the rituals you'll see in here was a joke. Some of them, not all of them. In the case of taking a dead man's head, burying it in the road, and watering it, my assumption is that what would happen is your superstitious friend would read this, actually be crazy enough to try it, and you'd be off in the bushes giggling. Or you would know who the sorcerer in town was, and you'd know who to crucify, potentially. The idea is that the demon will come and give them, like, whiskey and stuff like that, or they drink it and then they can see demons. I can't remember which. It's a really, really bizarre grimoire. Also, keep in mind, most grimoires are only like 50 pages in a modern format, because some of them, they date to a period in which the typeface and formatting of works was very different than today. This is even the case for the early 1800s. Try being an editor and finding any commonality between different publishers and eras of printing. It doesn't exist. By the way, OCR only goes so far with many of these works, just saying. And then finally, I included part of the Petit Albert, specifically the part that deals with Talismans, which is also in the previous work that I compiled, but there is a little bit of overlap there. The Talismans, the perfumes for the days of the week related to the Talismans in that practice, and then some various folk rituals, and including very bizarre things like how to make a house appear full of water, and there's various bizarre stuff, and it comes from the French cycle. So again, it's from the same sort of backdrop as the Black Pullet. In fact, if I remember correctly, it also mentions the hen with the golden eggs, the black hen. It also talks about the Hand of Glory. And for that reason, it's one of the most diabolical works. This one has a passage on the infamous Hand of Glory, specifically its method of manufacture, although the work is very honest and straightforward in saying, well, this is what I've heard, I've never done it, but this is one way that I've heard that it's created. And it's basically a dead man is hanged, and you take his hand and you're pickling it in various spices and herbs and using it to hold a candle that's made from the fat of the hanged man. You have to take his fat out. Again, this is far more diabolical than simply taking a head and putting it at a crossroads and putting beans in it and watering your head. It's specifically used for thievery. The idea is that the Hand of Glory will protect its wearer from being seen. It makes them invisible. There are multiple invisibility spells in this compilation. So for those of you that are into literal black magic, literal demon summoning, literal angelic transfigurations and bizarre things. If you're into the bizarre and often grotesque, this is definitely the kind of work that you'll want. It's 393 pages long, so this is quite a long work. Again, many of the illustrations come from Rita Metzner, some come from me, and some were just like woodcuts, basically, scans from out of copyrighted old works. I like to think that this is the finest compilation, and it's the final work of the year. The first work of next year, if I have my druthers, is actually going to be a book of books. I'm going to make an enormous, I've already compiled something like, I think, 2,000 different entries, different titles of occult works. I'm going to go through one by one, and I'm going to create listings for them. Bibliographic entry, so you can find it yourself. It's going to be meant as a reference work for serious occultists and students of magic. And then a brief description, a few sentences about the content of that work. And I figured that would be of help to people. It's sort of, you've only got a few reference works of its type, so it'll be interesting. Again, link in the description of this video to where you can find my work. Second and third links to my books, blogs. If you're interested in grimoires, there are a lot of others that I didn't include. There's a whole section. It's like You've got the bric-a-brac style works like Albertus Magnus. You've got Powwows by Holman. Those are comparable works, early 1800s. And you've got various black magic. You've got white magic. You've got the whole Lesser Keys, fully re-illustrated, my edition, by the way, by Rita Metzner. I like to think that this is a fine way to end the year. It's at the end of 2020, so now you can practice evil magic and, water your head and then be given whiskey by the whiskey demon. That's about all. Peace out.